welcome everyone. Today we have our another new episode and we will discuss on ethical AI. We have our world famous speaker Mr. Daniel and Mr. David Smith. First I would like to give chance Mr. Daniel.
Yes, thanks, Sharif, and thanks for muting. Lots of background noise if we don't mute. But yeah, I was kind of hoping we'd see Tom Ross, the Transhumanist Party vice presidential candidate. I'm the vice presidential candidate on the ticket for 2024. And I think Tom mentioned that we might make this a regular Tuesday function for campaign updates. Of course, we've still got hundreds of days to go before the November 5th, 2024 election. But yes, Tom is the director of AI sentient rights for the U.S. Transhumanist Party. So he's definitely going to have a lot of opinions and facts to weigh in on this topic. Is that David? We're getting a little bit of audio interference from your mic there, David. That's better. So yeah, I've been following the that AI is the topic today. Correct, Dr. Sharif? Yeah. So a lot of people actually take issue with the term artificial intelligence. They say what we're really seeing is machine learning, and actually what drives machine learning is just very fast computation of statistics. So nonetheless, we don't really know how our consciousness is able to manifest out of this analog bioelectric soup of many neural gates. But we have a feeling of self-awareness, of continuation of self. And there's some controversy as to whether or not this has been achieved by massive amounts of digital junctions, which really, you might say that's the only noticeable difference between human consciousness and machine learning, or so-called machine consciousness, is we use analog gates and machines are using digital gates. Now, there's another possibility that there are quantum effects also taking place in our analog bioelectric neural network. This is a matter for further study, but it does warrant a lot of study because we're on the verge of developing quantum computers. Actually, we are developing and deploying quantum computing technology. I kind of have a gut feeling that it will be the quantum computing technology that goes into the AGI, or artificial general intelligence, or super intelligence, as it's sometimes called. And we could see that very soon, perhaps a matter of weeks, months, or years. It's at the rate at which it's being worked on, it's we should be ready for that. And the question is how to keep this from being a weapon of mass destruction, or even of minor destruction, because it does have the potential to be weaponized. The superintelligence could tell you instructions on how to build an exotic, lethal pandemic, perhaps. And there's no shortage of people that think that humans are indeed a plague that the earth would be better off without. So we do have to create systems of control. Most people don't like that word, but when you have a dangerous element or dangerous technology in the hands of many potentially dangerous people, you need to register it. You need to train people on how not to abuse it. Our candidate, Tom Ross, he is proposing the Give Rights to AI Act. And this is mostly to prevent bad actors from not being held accountable from abusing machine intelligence. It's not trying to say that machine intelligence has achieved sentience. It's just trying to set a legal precedent for, just as we don't exploit animals, we don't exploit children, there should be a level of non-exploitation derived from personhood that gets applied to this burgeoning universe of artificial intelligence. So those are my opening thoughts. I'll probably hand the mic off to the next panelist, David.
Thank you so much. I agree with most of what you say, with one exception. I don't think quantum computers will be the drivers of the future of AI. But what I believe is biological computers will be the driver, because what you need to have full AGI is it needs to be running multiple things all at the same time, and not a sequential thing, which is what quantum computing does really well. So quantum computers are great for number crunching, like for doing a forecast of weather. But when you're trying to do something as complex as many threads as AGI, it's not the ideal engine, even though it can do things fast. So it's little differences there, which I think we can work through on others. But to go back a little bit to the topic with ethical AI, it has the extremely rapid rise of AI over just the last few years, from when it started decades and decades ago, has created many opportunities in almost every industry we see. However, particularly with the rapid increase in capabilities and the ability to merge through visioning systems, audio systems, and other things, the real world with the artificial world of AI, it has raised a lot of profound ethical concerns. And these are some like what you were saying, with conflict and others, but they've also are easy ones to, and we've been hearing about these in the news with embedded biases. Uh, for example, the Chat GPT engine, which is part of OpenAI GPT, has studies have come out and say do not use it in Asia because the embedded biases in it will not work in Asia. And so you see some like that. You also begin to say that AI can threaten human rights because of the massive amount of computer power required to run AI today. And even more as we run towards AGI and others, it's going to be bad for the climate because of the amount of electricity and heat it generates and all of those. And you're going to see how these really begin to rise up and create a real difference as you're looking forward. But in no other field that I'm looking at today is the impact of ethics more important for us to get ahead of the curve on right now in than artificial intelligence, because right now our AI is really general purpose technology, and it's reshaping the way we work, interact, and live. And it's set to change at a pace that really we haven't seen in our modern era. The last breakthrough that I can think of that has the impact of what this type of AI will have, and it's where we see AI heading in the next decade, is I would have to go back centuries to the invention of the printing press. The printing press dramatically changed the world. It dramatically actually changed the ethics of the world. It changed whole cultures. It changed the social uh, stagnation of the world. It changed how people are ranked in things because information was made available in ways it had not been made before. And it was easy to take the biases of the people who wrote and printed and show that. That is some of the challenges we have with AI today. It's the same ones we had, very similar back to when the printing press was invented. And what that was 6 centuries ago. And the AI technology brings, as was said, major benefits in many areas, but it needs these ethical guardrails on it. We don't want to reproduce in our AI the real world bias and discrimination that's there. We don't want to threaten human rights and freedoms in it. So there is beginning to be put in place by multiple places a set of looking at AI regulation, AI ethics. Um, my forecast is that in the next 2 years, you're going to see many states, many countries pass AI ethics regulation. You know, many a handful of people have said, let's stop developing AI at all right now until we get this done. I think we're too far down the path for that to happen. Uh, but we're there. So you have to understand that there should be some core values, much like ASLOS has the core rules for robotics, that they will do no harm, that they will obey humans and other things like that. We need to think about what are the same ones for ethical AI and how can we put the ethical AI ones in. And I think you're going to see some more. One of the groups has actually proposed, UNESCO has proposed 10 core principles of ethical AI. And they're pretty much similar to the robotic ones. First of it, do no harm and do no proportional harm. Second is safety and security, right to privacy, data protection, multi-stakeholder governance and collaboration, responsibility and accountable, transparency and explainability, human oversight, awareness and literacy, fairness and non-discrimination. Those are the ones which they have proposed is the basic framework for developing ethical AI. And I think we're going to go ahead and begin to see more and more places begin to put these type of regulation rules and laws in place as we're going forward. So Sharif, let me give it back to you. You're muted, Sharif.
Fazaria, Mr. Abdul Zalil, and Mr. Abdul Zalil, what you want to share about ethical AI? And I know that you have a project for artificial intelligence and smart city. Anything you want to share, Abdul Jalil? Mr. Yahya,
Hello.
I think, yeah,
How are you doing? Can everyone hear me?
We can.
yes, yes.
Okay. So I am part of the team of the II city or smart city and how we call it. And we are a team. We're trying to build a project in Algeria since Algeria is not so much attached in the AI. So we think about bringing the country to to try this evolution that the world is living. So we built that idea of this project together uh, to uh, to bring the new stuff to the country and they got to use the AI for many projects and for the smart city project.
Excellent, excellent.
Hmm.
Definitely, we're going to support your smart city project, Mr. Daniel. Like as we discuss about ethical AI, and recently we finished one of our conference with Asanullah University. I joined as a keynote speaker, and we find that many of the young people they are developing AI. They have core interest about artificial intelligence, but
Hmm.
if we set the standard for AI ethics, what type of ethical issues we need to follow? I, I think many important entrepreneurs like Elon Musk and everyone discussing about these things. So, what's
Okay.
your view on that particular points? Like how we can develop better policy for managing AI?
Is that for me?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah. Well, there's a movement that's you could think of as restorative justice. It's actually, we've had a system of justice in many parts of the world that's been based on what's called retributive justice, kind of based on the old Hammurabi code of an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. But actually, what people need is to be made whole after they've been wronged. Now, I would actually update this using AI, where we actually track back the origins of, let's look at property. Most property in the world has actually been obtained by force or violence. Of course, we had, historical era of conquest where people with more technology were able to relieve the people with less technology of their not just their goods and their land, but actually physically enslaving them in many cases. And it's not that the indigenous people have never committed wrongs. We can look at the megafauna extinction that occurred in North America. That was actually done before contact by European peoples. So there were mastodons, there were camels, and they were hunted and wiped out to extinction by early tribal bands in the North American continent, circa about 12 to 10,000 BC. So this period, so-called the Younger Dryas. So we can use AI to actually look at three kinds of value. And I think only one of those kinds of value should be taxed or penalized. And that's the value we derive from nature, because this is a pre-existing value that was not created. Individual value, that shouldn't be taxed. That's created. Community value, that's created by the community. But people should pay a fee for the ability to use things like land and water and sunlight and natural resources. And it should be a minor fee, like a 10% user fee. And actually, Henry George was a famous economist in a long line of social economists who proposed this idea. John Locke would be another one. It actually goes back to the Law of Moses, if you want to look at prehistory. And that is the idea. And even Milton Friedman, a modern Nobel Prize winning economist, at a talk, he said the Henry George tax or single tax user fee on land is the least bad tax. And it would actually be able to fund all the police and courts and the utility, the infrastructure of civilization could be well funded simply by making people pay a user fee on these accesses to natural resources. And you would give the current users priority, of course. I mean, you can imagine like an annual auction system, perhaps, where people renew their title or their arrangement, their contract to use a certain natural resource. Because the John Locke had a thing called the Lockean proviso and said, property in nature can only exist when there is enough and as good as for everyone else. So the idea is that you make a commonwealth out of the things that were pre-existing and weren't created. And in a sense, we might need to do the same kind of thing with AI. I mean, that would be an abstract kind of argument because, there's a idea, was mathematics, was that discovered or invented? Is mathematics something that humans discovered, that are properties of the natural world? I would argue they are. It's kind of a hybrid. I mean, it's a combination of discovery and invention. But anyway, my point is using things like geospatial intelligence, which we have now, these things like Google Earth and geographic information systems, we can actually look at each area of the Earth and say, what is the history of this area? Who has, overly monopolized it, or who perhaps should be considering a truth and reconciliation kind of stance for the past history. And this was done basically in South Africa with the Truth and Reconciliation Commissions. And all people really wanted was to hear an apology, an acknowledgement of the history, and say, yeah, our ancestors did that. It wasn't totally cool. We'd like to apologize. And, that would be a great start. And it might even be sufficient to move forward and to get closure on this. And anyway, I think this is something that I'm looking at our campaign, the Ross Tweed campaign for the 2024 U.S. presidential election. I think we could use AI to create this kind of virtual truth and reconciliation, geographically based intelligence council, and we could see where that goes. And this could be done very easily with very low cost tools at the neighborhood level. Even there's an interesting tool you can install on your cell phone, even if your cell phone is not hooked up to a cell tower. It's called What 3 Words, and basically every 3 meter by 3 meter square of the Earth's surface has a 3-word identifier that corresponds to it. Now, this is a proprietary database, admittedly, but they are pretty open about how it's used. You can pretty much use it without a formal license for them, but they're open to licensing it. But there are open source versions of this, and it's a pretty small cell phone application. I think it takes like under 60 megabytes to install this and use this. So you could look at things like bird watching. You know, birders love to watch birds, and you could say, okay, well, how many birds came into this square of the Earth, you know, during this time period? The bees are threatened right now. We could look at bee counts. So the UN tells us we're on the verge of losing about 1 million more species of nature. So this would be a way to have a kind of an open source biosphere census, if you will, using a technology like this. And I think it could be a lot of fun, kind of a contest. Could be gamified, you know, which square is more biosphere resilient than the next. People could adopt squares. Again, I think the amateur radio community could be great at acting as a portal to all these thousands of citizen science initiatives that exist. So I'm looking forward to using AI in this very civically engaged, evidence-based kind of community organization mode. And I'll pass the microphone. And thanks for letting me comment about that.
Thank you, Mr. David Smith. We have our new friends from Algeria. So after Mr. David Smith, I will give chance Mr. Yahya. Mr. Yahya, yeah, okay. So David Smith.
All right, Dr. Sharif, thank you so much again. Yeah, the whole area of AI, great discussion area. The area of ethical AI is one that is just really coming up to speed because of the rapid race, like I said before. In 2022, 62 countries had signed an initial letter of intent to begin to work on developing some ethical principles. And it was with the World Economic Forum, and it's the first set of organization for economic cooperation, development, ethical AI principles. And that first document really hasn't been implemented in many places, but it had more than 90 sets of ethical principles, which contained over 200 principles altogether. And it is a way to begin to get, but just the fact that you have that set of a very early one before the whole rise of like ChatGPT and others took off is amazing. Like I said before, many of these ethical AIs are looking at human rights, at international treaties, at existing codes of conducts and ethical principles from others. Many of these go back to even the heavy debate on what are the ethics and laws for robots, which predate this. But they can be really distilled down into many different principles that can be used to develop these. And some of them are, well, how do you begin to look at what are the principles? How can you look at what are the dilemmas? I mean, we've heard some of these, for example, when we've talked about autonomous vehicle. And you're in a place where an accident's going to happen. Do you run over the baby or do you run over the old man? That's an ethical principle that you've heard about in autonomous vehicles and things, where you're going to have the same type of ethical dilemmas as you look at the future of AI. And the general AI ethical principles, like I began to talk about before a little bit, are in uh, accountability. All the people, all the companies who develop AI systems should be responsible for their moral implementations of their use and misuse, and that there must be a clearly identifiable, accountable party, uh, be it a company, a country, or an individual. Uh, and we've seen that particularly in cybersecurity with the rise of things like ChatGPT and other Bob and other AI tools. They're now being applied in cyber hacking, so the black hat side of it. And it makes trying to secure it so much harder with them being able to use it in that manner. Uh, and yet those have no accountability on it. Another one is data privacy. Uh, and again, we're seeing this today. Individuals should have the right to manage their data that is used to train and run AI systems. I can tell you one of my interesting challenges is the company that makes ChatGPT, their parent product is just called Open AI GPT. It's now in version 5. I have been using that since version 2. And I know my material we've used it for is being used to help train it. So yes, I would love to know what they've used of ours, but under these new ethical approaches, I should have the right to that type of data privacy. uh, it should be compliant. AI ethics should be compliant so that all the stakeholders in the design of an AI system, from the people who wrote the AI tools to the people who do the LMMs to the application developers of them, they must always act in accordance with the laws and all regulatory systems that their application can be used in. And since the world is digitally connected, that's complying with laws globally, not just in your own region. Uh, Another one is that been proposed in this is beneficial AI. That AI should promote and reflect the common good and the common sustainability, the openness, the cooperation. There needs to be a degree of human agency. It's that humans should be required as part of the AI decision making. Our operations should be dictated by the level of perceived ethical risk of the AI tool. Again, this goes back to some of the laws of robots that have been applied here. And with it, trying to keep a human in the loop. That one, I think we've already passed it. But human agency is one of the proposed ethical AI principles. Safety. Uh, you know, Throughout their operational lifetime, AI systems should not compromise the physical safety or the mental integrity of humans. And the last one of these ethical AI principles proposed, and PricewaterhouseCoopers trying to drive this one, is fairness. The developers of AI should be treated in a fair manner without favoritism, discrimination, without harm, respect for the individual, and refrain from using data sets that contain discriminatory bias. And we know that many of the data sets contain bias in it because of the groups that the learning materials, the LLMs we use, uh, were represented by the majority users on the internet today. And the internet does not represent all the ethical, all the cultural, all the differences yet, and the data collected for the learning systems. And so they're naturally going to have embedded biases until you begin to work and trade those systems up. So, Sharif, those are some of the things, uh, and as you look at them, you're going to see them used more and more. But Sharif, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Yahya, what you want to discuss about ethical AI, and if you want to share about your project, about your country, it will be helpful for our audience.
Mhm. For me, AI, it's been a great thing for this era and this generation. Uh, but I don't agree that AI is always a good thing for us because sometimes it is, and some sides are bad. Like an example, for the artist I know, I used to use a software website called Artlist, ArtStation too. So they was all attacking AI because I was creating designs for instead of a human. So it's sometimes still like jobs for artists. And I've been using Midjourney on Discord. We can create so much beautiful artworks just from prompts. You can type anything and you get results from AI. And for me, AI and OpenAI and Chat GPT, it's when you use it, you get similar stuff with other people. Like when I type something, it may appear in some other person too. So it's shareable information. You know what I mean? And that's it. Any questions you ask, I will answer.
Thank you, Mr. Dan.
Yeah, there's an interesting news story developing out. I don't know if you've heard of the site Reddit. They are a place where people comment on each other's comments. It's one of the most popular sites on the internet because it's pretty open and uncontrolled. But they just instituted a fee for accessing Reddit. There's something called an API, which is an application program interface. And when you want one program to talk to another, you have to use something called an API. You have to use one of these interfaces. So what Reddit is noticing that all these AI systems are wanting to scrape Reddit of data, and every time they do it, it's incurring server charges for Reddit to serve all this data for free, to all these AI systems that are now trying to search Reddit. So they've come up with a policy that unless your API is for accessibility, like handicapped people need accessibility tools, or if you're an academic researcher, then it's free to use your API on Reddit. But everyone else now is going to have to pay for that application program interface to Reddit. And this has caused one very popular app to have to go offline because the charges for his app that lets you search all of Reddit, Reddit wants to charge this guy $20 million a year for his app to access Reddit. So this guy said, I can't pay that. I don't make nearly that much with my app. So he's just going dark. And I think this is a trend that is going to be happening more and more. There's lots of companies on the internet that gave their stuff away for free, essentially, to build up their user base. This is what's called the freemium model, kind of a portmanteau of the word free and premium. So you get people in with a free level of service, and then you say, hey, by the way, if you want to get even better service, you can pay this fee for this. That's the freemium model. And I think AI is causing a lot of online services and utilities to have to draw the line in the sand and say, well, no more free lunch. We're going to have to charge for our data serving, because all these AI systems are just putting tremendous loads on the servers of the internet, trying to serve all this data for all these, sometimes admittedly frivolous uses of AI. I mean, it's like we've got this amazing technology, and we're giving it like really frivolous ideas. But that's the nature of creativity. But there's an example in history when photography was invented. Tens of thousands of people that used to paint portraits of people, they were all thrown out of work, because why would you need to hire a portrait painter? You can just get this photographer and he'll do it for 10 times cheaper, and in a matter of hours you can have a complete captured reality for yourself. So I think, unfortunately, like Ben was just saying, artists are being displaced. This is the technological displacement that is an unfortunate eventuality with every new technology, really. I mean, what happened to all the buggy whip manufacturers when the horseless carriage came in? Well, I guess they had to become upholstery makers, or they had to retrain. They had to find a way to use their skills in the face of the new technology. So those are a few of the things that came to mind that I wanted to cover on this program about AI today, and I'll hand off the feather, the talking stick, as it were.
Thank you, Mr. David Smith.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm struggling. I think I'm losing my voice, so I'll make this one pretty short on it. I agree with what is being said, that there's a lot of going on there, but uh, we have to begin to understand that artificial intelligence is going to touch many, many, many parts of our human existence and our human beings. And uh, that, as we've seen with privacy, as we've seen with many other topics, and where we've been trying to apply regulatory uh, benefits and restrictions to it, the technology is just moving too fast for us to be effectively be able to stay ahead of it. So any regulatory environment is going to be in reactive mode, and many times the harm's already going to be done as you look out towards the future. And we've seen this coming. Isaac Asimov, who did the laws of the robotics to govern them, he saw the issues way back in the 1950s in his iRobot, uh, and began to put the places together in it. And we've seen it going forward during that whole time. We've seen places where machine ethics, artificial ethics, all have become put in place. We're beginning to see a movement now where initially many of the artificial intelligence systems were open source, so that you could look at the code, you could understand what was being done in them. They're increasingly becoming closed and proprietary, where you cannot, as an outsider, begin to see what the training libraries were, how ethics could be applied in it. And these closed systems, I believe, you're going to see more and more of them, but that decreases the transparency that I believe is one of the hallmarks you need with artificial intelligence, particularly when you go towards general artificial intelligence. Because as it continues, in general artificial intelligence, the artificial intelligence will train the artificial intelligence versus humans training the artificial intelligence. And that is where this type of transparency becomes very important. And that's where ethical AI becomes extremely important, because human beings natively feel like there's some degree of ethical considerations, some more than others. But machines do not have feelings. And so, how can we get this type of ethical AI into machines? And that's really the question here, because AI is just a machine. Uh, and that's what we need to do. And Sharif, I think that might be my last remark today. I really need to go get something to uh, decongest me. But Sharif, thank you so much for letting me be on the program today.
Thank you, Mr. David Smith. Mr. Dan, what's your concluding remarks for today?
Yes, well, we've had a similar dilemma or period in history when governments granted personhood rights to corporations. The corporation is allowed to function to a degree like a person, although it's not what the law would call a natural person, but it does have uh, a limited range of personhood rights, and I think that's the dilemma that we're seeing with so-called artificial intelligence. And keeping a human in the loop is going to be crucial in this new phase of history. You can't just start a corporation without a human so far. I mean, you have to file an agent for the corporation. There has to be someone that if someone wants to sue the corporation, there has to be a human agent that they can serve the legal papers to. At least that's how U.S. law is set up. I assume that it's pretty similar for other countries. So there's the corporate model, and there's the necessity to keep a human in the loop. Again, I think we really need, as the U.S. Transhumanist Party, to draft a Keep a Human in the Loop Act, and this would probably have to be like any other piece of legislation. It's going to need probably a lawyer, and it's going to be dozens, if not hundreds of pages long, perhaps. But, we have to keep humans in the loop all the time. Anyway, this sort of becomes a philosophical question. It's like, how do we keep our own humanity in the loop? And I think there are people in the transhumanist movement that are what are called post-human advocates. They have no love at all for the current meat sack biological body that they're currently using to experience the world with. They would love to just download themselves into a robotic or silicon-based or some other virtually immortal kind of substrate or system. And that's kind of a fringe group, but the humanity is made of all kinds of fringe groups, and hopefully we don't blow each other up. we can coexist. So that's the purpose of culture and of communication and of wisdom, is to keep ourselves human and keep ourselves safe for each other to be around. And I think I can conclude on that note. And thanks again for letting me come today.
Thank you, Mr. Yahya. You want to add any concluding remarks for today? I think he has it. Yeah.
What was the question again? Tell me.
My question, like, what do you want to add any concluding remarks, like closing remarks for today?
Um, I don't think so. No.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dan.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
David Smith.
Sounds interesting.
Thank you, yeah, for joining today's sessions. We discuss about ethical AI and definitely smart city in Algeria. And
Mm-hmm.
thank you, everyone. I request all of our audience,
Okay.
please share our content with the government agency, corporation, academy. Thank you. Bye bye and take care.
Thank you so much. Thank you.